the company's doing layoffs, or they don't like their boss, or something is happening. But really for me, it was just listening to that voice inside and thinking about what was right for me and my family, and knowing that I can go back, I can go back to the corporate world if it doesn't work out. But sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith and try that thing that's in your heart.
Yeah. I just realized that some issue on the back end, and we weren't live yet. We're recording. So for those of us that just joined us, my name is Great Man. I'm the founder of the Monetize Your Talent series, and this series is really just bringing in professionals from different niches, talking about how they've leveraged the LinkedIn platform to build their business and get collaborations and partnerships, and how you can too. So with us here is Ifa. She has over 20 years experience in the tech space, working at IBM, and then moved to Meta, and now she's moved to running a business where she helps top executives maintain peak performance. And this is just her sharing her story. So in case you're joining us, just let us know where you're commenting from, and of course we would always be willing to give you a shout out. So if I think this is a really interesting conversation we're having here. And of course burnout is like a major factor why people actually move away from the 9 to 5. And I'd say in your experience, and I really love the story you shared about um, your son, and how it sort of opened your eyes to how much you were dedicating into work. And I think it's a challenge I'm also having with the 9 to 5, and also trying to like balance it with personal life. Do you think that in terms of transitioning to your business, maybe the first question is this: what was the difference between life as an employee and life as an entrepreneur? And how has it been around navigating boundaries between business and personal life versus when you were an employee?
Ooh, great question. I think when you're an employee, sometimes you don't realize how lucky you are, that you have such security, and you have a team around you, you have camaraderie, that there's the social aspect of it. You can develop very good self-esteem as well through achievements, and your self-worth as well. And I think when I moved then to being an entrepreneur, I realized that no one else was going to give that to me. I had to earn it myself. And being a solopreneur as well, I found that networking very quickly became important, because I needed to have other people out there. Getting a business mentor for myself, because I needed to learn sales, marketing, how to run a business, how to generate leads, do all of that. And I'm still learning all of that. I mean, it's the learning curve has been longer than I expected. And then having people who have gone through a similar journey, or are in the same boat, are new, to the world of entrepreneurship, I think that has been really important as well. So I think the difference for me is having people to guide you and help you, has always been part of the corporate world. And from day one, you're given maybe a buddy, a mentor, a coach. You have your manager to tell you what's expected. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're every one of those things for yourself, and you have to go out and pay people.
Your sales team, the marketing team, the reps team, like all of that.
Yeah, exactly. You're the everything. and you have to pay people to mentor you, or to work with you, or whatever it is. And you realize very quickly, I realized how much I took for granted, and how much you're almost expecting the company to give you more of whatever it is. But then when you are an entrepreneur, you realize how much you were given that you just saw as standard. So it was interesting for me to see that, because I'd worked for companies since I left college, and it's a very different situation when everything is on you. And if you don't turn up, then nothing's going to happen. As a solopreneur, obviously, when you build your business for long enough, you start to generate your passive income. You maybe have other people working, so that if you're not there, everything continues. Yeah, in the early days, it's all you.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like doing something, you just have to suck it up and do it. There's no one to delegate to, or it just has to get done. And I found there was a lot of structure. I was very structured when I was working in the corporate world because I was leading teams. So I would set, the vision, the strategy, and the goals.
OKRs and all of that.
Yes, have all of that very well documented, have people tracking the progress. And then when I started for myself, I hadn't set those initially. And then I realized, oh yeah, actually, that's something I used to do and it was important. So I almost had to become my own manager as well
Okay.
as everything else. So it was a very big mindset change for me personally. And that's just how I experienced it. Maybe other people, if they've worked in smaller companies and they've been used to doing a range of roles, they might find that easier. And I assumed I would find it easy because I had set up teams from scratch before, where I had done a lot of the, all the work to begin with, and then found other people to do it. But there's something very different about it when it's your own business. And even my expectations around when I would start making money and how long that would take, everything, I had only made assumptions based on my own thoughts, but there was no research to it or no. But when you're in the corporate world, you can see your career path, you can see what other people have done, the pay scales, or, it's very clear in your mind. But when you start for yourself, it's really a blank page that you're starting with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the lessons you really shared that really helped you in your business is, having a mentor. And, a lot of people don't talk about this, often. I have a mentor myself that really helped me grow, in my career. And essentially what a mentor really helped me do was, navigate the spaces of, not making some common mistakes that people make, at the stage that I find myself, and also learning how to grow as a professional, as a staff, as an employee, and just helping me track my own journey. And when I started remote work, it's not as easy as people set it to be. So I joined the company. Personal story: I joined the company, and in the first year, I didn't even know that people used to get promoted, right? And I was just keeping my head down, working, and I posted some amazing results, but I didn't know that I could actually go to my manager to say, hey, look at this, look at this, look at that, and I think I deserve this promotion. And it was like in the second year that I got talking with like a senior colleague, and he started telling me the importance of this. And along the line, I got a mentor, and I was able to just track this growth. And I think that it's both as a business owner and as an employee, it's very important for individuals to have like mentors. Mentors really help you, cover that gap and help you grow faster. And you talked about that. And also, I'm interested in terms of setting up your systems. I know you shared how it's been in terms of planning and how things were in your health expectation and all that. What about in terms of setting systems for your business? Like how did that play out for you? I know that it's structured in the employee space, but coming in as a business, how has structure helped you, and what systems do you set around your business to grow? And there we can talk about that.
I think it's so important, and it didn't come intuitively to me. I think I'm quite a right-brained person, very I like the creative side, but I wouldn't have as much of the logic and the very data analytical type of approach to things. And somehow in the corporate world, I had developed that because it was needed, and I was working in, let's say, like in IBM, things, there's a lot of data, and you take the data and then you make the decisions. And Meta, I was in a more creative space, so sometimes there was a little bit more of innovation and creativity. But on my own, I found that suddenly it was almost like a rebellion within myself, to just be free. And I suddenly lost all the structure, but I realized very quickly how important it is. And even the simple thing of having a schedule. And making time for revenue generating income or activities, making time, just structuring that you're not spending all your time doing posts on social media. Yes, they may generate a pipeline in the future, but that's more of a long-term thing. Making your right schedule, that was a big thing for me. And just structuring my day. And I thought I had all of this by default, but I think it was because I was looking at what was normal in the corporate world and what was expected. And I wasn't setting up the same structure for myself intuitively, but I realized pretty quickly that that was important and that I needed to have my schedule. And once something is scheduled, it's more likely to get done. To-do lists are great, but if there isn't time inside to do them, they
Okay, so what's like the difference between having a to-do list and having a schedule? I think let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference. I think you have to start with the to-do list so you know what needs to get done, but then to actually break it up into, okay, like this part is really urgent and it's important, and I need to make time for that tomorrow morning. That has to be the first thing that I tackle. And then, making time throughout the day for other things. I even schedule when I'm going to look at my emails, because otherwise every time the little notification pops up, I'm going to go and look. So I'll turn off the notification. Because otherwise I'm going to just be, my concentration is getting split all the time. And there's research that says that when you're multitasking or when you're switching from one task to another, it's actually as damaging to your brain as smoking marijuana.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I value my brain. I quite like it. For me, I really didn't want to be switching all the time, because then you're, okay, where was I? What was I doing? It actually takes you longer to get everything done. But if you can focus on one task at a time, get it done, move to the next one, get it done, you're also getting a dopamine hit to the brain because you've completed something. And, there's something great about ticking that off the list, moving on to the next thing. So I have had to structure even my laptop, how it's set up, that I don't have the notifications popping up, that I am not being disturbed when I'm working on something that's urgent and important and I need to get it done. So I think the to-do list is only the start. It's only step number one, but then the right structure. And I like to structure my day that I tackle something that's really needs a lot of brain power early in the day, as opposed to doing it later when I might be rushing it, or my concentration is maybe going because I'm thinking, okay, I need to pick up the children, or I need to do these other things. For me, that's how I start it. And then I will do emails after I've completed my first thing, unless there's something I'm expecting, and I need that information to get started on the task. But I will usually safeguard time for the really important tasks first. And even before I even start work, I set aside time for health activities for me, because it sets up my whole day. And if I've done that early in the day, I'm more likely to look after my health than trying to fit it in later when I'm tired, or, there are other things that have come up that feel important. So I'll start my day with a small amount of meditation. I don't spend hours doing it. I have small children, so, I'm delighted I get to do any at all. And usually I'll do some gratitude journaling as well, and think about my goals and what I want to achieve, both from the day and the longer term ones as well, so that they stay focused in my mind. And then when I'm looking at activities that I'm going to be doing during the day, I'm asking myself, is this aligned to my goals?
Okay.
And if it's not, then it's not going to get done, because I know now, since I've had children as well, that time management is so important, and prioritization, because I'm working while they're at school, and and if I'm paying for childcare, I want to make sure I'm making the most out of that time that I'm not with my children. So I think it's so important just to really prioritize, and if it's not aligned with my goals, it needs to go off to the to-do list even, and definitely off my.
Let's talk about boundaries for a bit, right? It's good you brought this up, in terms of, being a parent, and also, working your business and finding the time to, be present for the two, right? So I'm going to bring it on the perspective of an employee, right? And let's say you have your to-do list, you have, your schedule, and suddenly there's a task from, say, leadership or from your manager. So how are you going to, in terms of prioritization and execution, how does that work for you?
So you mean when I was in the corporate world, or?
Yeah, when you're in the corporate world.
I think it's always really important to know what's valued most by the company. So if you've been asked to do something and it aligns with a top line goal of the company, then I think that's really important to prioritize. But if it's something that it's not going to be recognized and it's not going to move everyone's goals along, I think it's not as important. Now, sometimes there can be things like that are going to build culture, and they're going to look after the people as well. I think it's important to make time for those as well. It was the founder of Spotify said before that culture beats strategy every time. It's so important to look after the people. So even I think there's a little bit of intuition as well needed in terms of what's important to prioritize. And if it's not aligned to a goal, but it is aligned to improving people's welfare and the satisfaction of employees that you're managing, it could be worth investing in as well. But I think knowing what is aligned to the goals of the company, what does your manager value? If your manager is going after, let's say, a revenue target, but you're being asked to look at something that is related to, I don't know, customer service metric, but nobody is talking about that, then it's really question, is that where you need to dedicate your time when the company is really revenue? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. So let's bring it to the business side of things. You're a business owner, you have clients. How do you set your boundaries, between your clients? Like, how does that conversation happen? And, just let me know like the different ways. You can go as practical as you can.
So boundaries in terms of time with them.
Yeah, in terms of time with them, I know that you might be working with clients that have, down different time zones, and they come into ask for task, or maybe you onboarded a client and they're always asking for reviews and all of that. So how do you set these boundaries, just for people that have businesses as well, for them to learn, some of the structures that you've put in place in terms of boundaries?
Yeah. I'm quite a boundary person, actually, when it comes to this kind of thing. And I think it doesn't come up as an issue for me because I'm pretty clear in my own mind about when people can contact me. So I'm just very clear with people. I'm available at this time, to check WhatsApps or messages. We'll have our call at this time, it's going to be X long. Like I'm not actually saying it quite like this to people, but I will give them the details of when I'm available. And if we have an hour-long session, I will usually stick to that hour to respect both of our times. And unless there's a very unusual situation where it wouldn't be okay to finish if someone is really in the middle of something very emotional or whatever it is. But I will usually give people nudges a little bit towards the end of the time that we're going to be finishing up. And it kind of happens naturally. Your own body clock gets used to knowing how long a session is, and we should be at this point now and then this point. And I think that comes with experience. But I learned in the corporate world as well that if you are answering emails at 9 o'clock at night and at 11 p.m. and whatever, people start to expect it. They think that's just how you operate, and you start to erode your own boundaries. So I will wait to answer something until I've said I'm free to answer it, because otherwise you're telling people how to treat you. And I think that's really important, whether you're in corporate or running your own business. And if you're a leader, you're setting that culture for people. So if you're sending emails at 2 o'clock in the morning, people think that's what is done in that company. And it's the same with your clients. If you're sending things, and again, I have to practice what I preach. I'm telling people to, finish with screens at least 2 hours before bedtime. And if I'm sending something at 11 p.m., it's very contradictory to the message that I'm giving as well.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Give me a sec. I think my network was just lagging for a bit. Let me see. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it was I couldn't hear you clearly, so let me see if I can switch and have this work better for me. Is this good? I think it's much better.
It was there for a moment, but it looks good now.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I just had to switch routers for this. Okay, that's fine. So in terms of because I'm going to be asking you for based on your wealth of experience as top exec at some of these companies and also as a business. In terms of management, so are you a one-person business right now, or do you have staff under you right now?
Yeah, it is just me at the moment.
Okay, so let's talk about how you've built this business and how you closed your first client. When you came into your business, you started it, did you have like an existing market? Like, were you marketing before you joined? Say, okay, I'm going to take this, because I know that there are people that have 9 to 5 and then they have a side hustle and then they just keep growing the side hustle until they now decide, okay, we can actually push this. So how was the transition like for you?
Yeah, that's the smart way to do it, is to have the side hustle and build up the pipeline first. I didn't quite do it the smart way, but
Okay.
I was doing a lot at the time. So I was working full time in Meta. I was finishing my executive coaching postgraduate diploma. I was on the board of a charity as well. So I was doing way too many things to start building the business at the same time. And so really when I was leaving, I was laying some of the groundwork, and I had already run it as a side hustle on and off, but I hadn't really built up that pipeline yet. So when I left, it really was starting from scratch to build it up. And I was very fortunate that there was a clinic in Dublin and they needed someone to come in to advise on nutrition. So I started working out of there. So I had a physical location as well. And
Okay, so this was an offline
yeah,
place that how did you discover them? Did you reach out to them, or?
they it was actually through my network. Someone else knew that I had just started and that they were
Oh,
looking for someone, and they thought it could be a good combination. Yeah, because they were working with females mainly, but women, who are very successful, and there was a good match there. So that was a great way for me to build confidence, build a pipeline, and it started me off with the right momentum. And then I leveraged my network a lot, really, especially in the early days. And I spoke at conferences, at different events, and that
okay.
all helped to generate, a pipeline of leads.
Leads for
Um,
you. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I kind of took, I would say, quite a traditional route. Other people will go online and build a very big social media presence, and that works really well. And their email marketing, like there's so many new ways now that are probably way more effective, but
Yeah.
that was how it got started for me, was very much with the more traditional route. And in Ireland, a lot of the time it is about referrals and word of mouth. And if somebody says, oh, I went to this person and they were really good, usually we'll say, oh cool, I'd like to go to them too, without doing loads of research. But if we're looking online, we'll be comparing 3 or 4 different people. But word of mouth is really strong in Ireland, and referrals from other healthcare practitioners or from leaders as well. So that really helped me.
Oh, that's amazing. I think let's talk about when do you think it was time to like come on social media? I know you talked about opening the Facebook page. So how has that transitioned into you getting on LinkedIn and reaching out to people on LinkedIn? Can you like share your journey?
Yeah, I started with the Facebook page, and that built really well. Like it built up to about 10K followers, and that was just from even sharing other people's content, from sharing nutrition tips of my own or tips about sleep, and it seemed to resonate with people, and they got value from just small nuggets of information. And I had an Instagram page as well, but I was a little bit more kind of shy about starting reels and really showing up myself. I would be a quiet person, an introvert generally, and that was a big thing for me to start posting videos. And I started doing that maybe a year ago, but I realized that it opens you up to a whole new market of people, because otherwise, how are they going to know you're there? Or like, know and trust you enough to become a client. It's different when they're part of your network or someone has referred them. That carries a lot of weight already. And then LinkedIn was the last one that I really looked at, because I had always thought of it as somewhere like a CV, you know, like your resume that you just...
Yeah, that's the traditional approach people take to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Same as myself.
Yeah, and I did not see the gold or the, you know, the value that was there on LinkedIn until very recently. And then I realized, actually, my ideal clients are all on LinkedIn. You know, you would think it was obvious, but it took me a while to realize that. And then just structuring your profile the right way is very powerful. And you can reach out to people individually. I think that's what's quite strong about LinkedIn. You know, you're connected with that person as opposed to them just being a follower, which they can be as well. But you know so much more about a person immediately. Obviously, you know their title, but you know what they care about from what they post and how they show up on LinkedIn as well. And I think there's a greater trust factor on LinkedIn because, you know, obviously it's your full name, but it's also where you work. You know, people that have endorsed you, they can look them up and see who they are. They're not just anonymous testimonials on a website. And I think that it builds trust and credibility like no other platform. So for me, I realize now the value of LinkedIn. And if I'd known that from the start, it would have been very different, but that's okay. It's all learning. And that's where I think that is the place for me to be now, is on LinkedIn.
I mean, that's amazing. Because I think you did really great on Facebook. Like, it's not easy to, you know, build a Facebook page and grow to 10,000 followers. I mean, I've been on Facebook for almost 15, 20 years now, but I don't even have, you know, that amount of followership. So it speaks to like the authenticity and, you know, the strategies you've also used to actually build, you know, this platform. You know, it means, you know, you had a strong message and you actually, you know, tapped into your audience and they found you on Facebook. So in terms of messaging on Facebook and, you know, messaging on LinkedIn, what's like the disparity, what's like the common ground, and, you know, what do you think you do differently on these platforms?
I feel I do it very differently, and I don't know if that's good or bad. On LinkedIn, I will go with quite a professional message, as in something that I would say in a professional setting to leaders and to corporate people. Whereas on Facebook, it's a little bit more informal, and on Instagram as well. And it's more for anybody, really. You know, like that, because I'm connected to a lot of people, or people who follow me on Instagram and Facebook are not necessarily leaders and from a corporate background, which I found is very interesting. It's just the way it worked out. So sometimes it's much more informal, and I feel I like the structure on LinkedIn, because it kind of connects me back to that intellectual side, you know, that of the work that I did before. But on Instagram and Facebook now, I'm getting kind of more comfortable with showing my own personality as well. And I'm finding on Instagram, especially, the shorter the better. And the shorter my videos go, the higher the likes and the follows and the shares are. Yeah, I used to do them a minute and a half long, and I'd be cutting them like they might be even longer. And I'm like, I must squeeze it into a minute and a half. But now I'm like 6 seconds, 9 seconds, and it's enough. And I think people just want that bite-size chunk. And I can post the exact same thing on Instagram and on Facebook, and I'm not sure what way the algorithm is set up, but it will get way more views on Instagram than on Facebook, even though I have 10K followers on Facebook and 1K, I think, on Instagram. But Instagram, even one video had 69K views, but the same video on Facebook had maybe 2K views.
Wow. I mean, so I think that for algorithm, this might, you know, just get technical a bit. For algorithm basis, because we posted, you know, natively on Instagram, and these are the kind of contents that actually, you know, go viral on Instagram, and it's sort of been pushed to a whole new audience, and they like your message and they interact with it. But I think the Facebook algorithm is still niched down to, you know, your followers, people are really open to like going to look at different random reels, but your followers are the majority of people seeing your platform. So I think yeah, I've experienced it too. I was trying to run a page that had both Instagram and Facebook, and I posted one content, it went viral on Facebook, it didn't go viral on Instagram. It went viral on Instagram, it didn't go. So I don't know what it is, but I just have to just control the amount of content I put out, since that's the one within my control. So yeah. So let's talk about in terms of using LinkedIn to like generate leads. How do you send out the DMs? How do you pick it? What's the structure? Because I know that a lot of people face this challenge, myself inclusive. It's really not easy for people to reply messages. Especially like cold DMs. Like, what's like a strategy that gets you open rates before you start out a conversation with them around what you do on LinkedIn?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I'm just being genuine with people. I never take a pushy approach. And I know that a lot of salespeople will say, no, you have to, keep showing them the value that you have, and they need what you have, and you need to show them that. And I feel as well, though, there has to be the right energy between two people. I may not be the person that they need for their health. So I will open a conversation quite genuinely, just to get to know them and to tell them what I do, but to offer help or give them some value, and not to jump straight into trying to sell something to them. And for me, I think it's always a long-term approach. Creating the relationship is important. That relationship may lead to a sale, it may not, but it also may lead to a referral in the future, or it may lead to working together in a few years' time. And for me, it's not about like, must get this sale, must get this across the line. It's very much about expanding the network, expanding the relationships with people. And I think people feel that, and they sense it, and they know, okay, this person is not out just to sign me up. Because I often get messages on LinkedIn, and I know where it's going, and sometimes like it because it's so cookie cutter approach. Whereas I feel that we're humans, and especially if you're going to trust someone with your health, or with something that feels very personal to you, I think it's important to have the right relationship. And I mean, I believe in being here in the world to do good. And it's not just about how much money you can make. And I think people appreciate knowing that you're there to give support and guidance, and to work with someone, as opposed to just get them signed, and then on to the next one. So really, for me, it's about that kind of genuine relationship building, and taking some time to get to know someone and what they need, as opposed to always just having must get that sale on my mind. And maybe other people will make way more sales if they do have that mentality, but I'd rather have the right clients and do it in the right way.
Yeah, I think that's really remarkable. Right. I remember, when you sent me a message, and we immediately like kicked it off, and we had like a coffee chat, and here we are. So I feel like the strategy really works. And so in terms of positioning on LinkedIn, you're one person that has come on LinkedIn and shown yourself as a person, and also as a health professional, and you've been able to like reach out to some of your potential clients, and essentially some of these guys have become your clients. So in terms of positioning yourself on LinkedIn, and also creating and sharing your value on LinkedIn, how do you balance it out between being loud on LinkedIn, and being salesy? Like, what's the balance where you're talking about what you're doing, but you're not like forcing it like in their throats? And what do you think in terms of reception of your audience? How do you think people receive you better based off your content?
I'm always thinking about, when I was in corporate, how would this resonate with me? So even sometimes I'm thinking about myself as my ideal client, like, would I buy from this person? Or what would I think if I read this myself? And if I think, oh, this is a bit cheesy, or oh, no, it's a bit corny or salesy, I'll change it. And I find the more authentic I am, the more it resonates with people, and the more comments I'll get or DMs from people. And it's really, it's that check-in, like with the heart. We don't talk about the heart much in business, but I think it's a really good guide, you know, that it's not just about what other people are posting, you know, that's with the head, seeing, okay, these posts have done well for people, but it might not do well coming from you because it's not your message. So I think the more I've learned to tap into what I feel is important for people to know, the better it's going. And I noticed that, like, I worked with someone before who is an expert in communications and PR. And the posts that we had structured together were really good. They were excellent the way they were written, but they didn't get as many responses from my ideal clients as the ones that are kind of messy that I put together myself. And I think it's because people know it's you, and there's something about that genuinity and authenticity that people know they can trust you. But anybody can use ChatGPT or Claude or any AI to generate posts. And some of them are really good, and some of them you just look at it and you go, no, that was AI. I don't know who that is. Sorry?
I see too many M dashes.
Yeah. But I think I'm not overthinking it too much anymore, because if I feel, yeah, that was good, that's going to give value. You know, there's a little bit of me gone into that, like, you know, my story. I think storytelling is so important, and
I agree.
I love stories, and you know, I love them as well. And I think about what hooked me on someone else's post, and then I'll think about how can I build something like that into mine as well. So I'm always learning from what other people are posting to, and what feels authentic for me.
Awesome. I think we're getting almost to the end of our conversation, and I'm really enjoying this. So in terms of advice for someone starting out on LinkedIn, what do you think you can tell them that can help them stand out and build visibility even while, you know, they are, you know, having 9-to-5 jobs?
I think that structuring your CV, like if you want to stand out as a business owner, that's one way of structuring your CV. And if you want to stand out as a 9-to-5 worker and you're going to be looking for more jobs like that, there's a different way of structuring your CV. And I think the biggest difference is when you're working in for yourself as a business person, is saying how to help people. And, you know, instead of a title, because sometimes people won't know what an executive coach is or what they do. But if you can say what problem you solve, that can really make it very clear for people. But then again, if you are a software engineer and you want to get jobs as a software engineer, then going with your title is really important, and, you know, your certifications, your experience. So knowing what message you want to get across, and AI actually really helped me with that. I mean, you know, I got it to audit my LinkedIn profile initially, and it gave me lots of tips. So, you know,
with the LinkedIn Premium AI?
No, just I used ChatGPT. I sent it a link to my own LinkedIn profile and said, I'm transitioning from, you know, working at Meta to running my own business. How do I need to structure my LinkedIn profile? You know, and it was really good, the kind of tips that it gave me, and that got me started. And then someone else did look at it for me. I got a branding consultant to help to work with me as well. So that really helped. But I think posting doesn't seem to be as important on LinkedIn as on other platforms like Instagram. It is important, but I think the DMs are very powerful on LinkedIn compared to the other platforms. And I think knowing who your ideal client is, if you're going to use DMs, is really important. So, you know, what level are they at in the company? Where are they? Are you looking for someone in your same time zone? Are you looking for someone, you know, in New York? Do you want to work with everyone there? And I think the more clarity you have on who is your ideal client, the more then you can use tools like Sales Navigator to find those ideal clients. And then once you find one person like that, you can find more. It'll help you find more people of the same profile. So LinkedIn does really good tutorials as well on how to use their tools. And it's still early days, I think, on LinkedIn, as some other platforms are overly saturated. But I think on LinkedIn, not that many people are using it compared to other platforms to link with ideal clients. So I think learning how to use all the different tools, getting your profile set up the right way, and knowing your ideal client, and then how to find them and connect with them, and then open the conversation without it being overly salesy initially,
Yeah.
and figuring out, are they even interested in what you want, what you're selling, and not overly pushing, because it is about building a network and it's a long-term strategy.
Essentially, it's about building a network, and it's a long term. I totally agree with you. This is well said. So I'd say in terms of transitioning, being a parent and running a business, what's like one mindset that's really like helped you, grinded that to just keep pushing? I know it's not easy.
Yeah. I've done a lot of work on my mindset to make it as positive as possible. So I think for me, sometimes it's just that mindset that there's good in everything, that there's a blessing in everything. Because sometimes it's, but I really need to do this meeting, but my child is sick and I need to look after him. And, but sometimes maybe that happens for a reason. And I would always believe that there's a reason for everything. I know a lot of people may not believe that, but I would be a spiritual person in that there's always a silver lining. There's always a good reason for everything. And maybe, you didn't get to do that meeting because you weren't really prepared for it. And then rescheduling for 2 days actually gives you time to, get the right information or be better prepared or whatever it is. I always think that when there's an obstacle or an issue, look for the good in it. Don't always look for the bad. And you can train your mind and your mindset to always find the good. So I think that is a mindset that keeps me going through days when others would quit, and when you can find the bad very easily, and you have to dig a little bit deeper sometimes to find the good, but it's always worth it. And I think, yes, looking for the good in seemingly bad situations is a mindset that gets me through always.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing mindset. I think let's finalize with talking about mental health and how you help people achieve peak performance. So I know that this is a problem with high achievers, especially people that are not so aware of their body and their mind, and how much of their effort is going into the job and not looking after their body. So let's talk about in terms of burnout for high achievers, right? How do you think this set of people can, track their body and spot burnout before it happens, and get them in crisis? I use myself as an example because sometimes I'm so much into a project and it will take me going into the hospital to actually go away from my lab. So how do you spot this burnout, and how do you navigate them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it can be, it's very slow, that burnout. Like, it doesn't just happen overnight, or one project, 1 week, and you're burnt out. And I think the word gets thrown around a lot. When someone's really tired, they're saying burnout. But I think there are different phases when you can spot it. And early on, some of the early symptoms are maybe you're starting to wake up a little bit more at night and you're thinking about work, whereas you used to just sleep fine all through the night before. Or you're sleeping, but you're waking up and you're still tired. And I think you can tell a lot from your sleep, or you're sacrificing sleep to get work done. And there can be little signs as well, like things are bothering you a little bit more than usual. You're more impatient, or traffic is like, or you're just not as calm as you used to be, and things are getting to you. And it can progress then to like other stages where you're getting a lot of headaches and tension in your neck, or maybe your back is going, or you're getting a lot of colds. So it's starting to become physical. Or you might have some kind of illnesses that keep recurring, like a cough keeps coming back, and you're craving sugary foods. Or, that you get an injury when you're actually doing sport, and you take a long time to recover. And sometimes people think they're just getting older, but they don't look at their habits and their behaviors and how they're working. And then get to a point where you've got brain fog and you feel overwhelmed all the time and you're not enjoying working anymore, and some people have even said that they're like daydreaming about getting sick so that they can have a break without feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like you just, they're daydreaming. One person was daydreaming that they would get hit by a car, and then they could take like a few months off. Like, so it can get very much to a point where people are at risk, of making maybe bad decisions. Yeah, or just they're thinking, okay, I just need to quit completely and leave. They don't see any other option. And there's almost like emotional blinkers on where it's, I need to keep going. I need to get all this done. When I get all this done, I'll be fine. When I get to the end of the quarter, I'll be fine. And there's always this thing out in the future that they have.
There is the next task.
Yeah. And this becomes normal. So they keep working like this for years, or it could be months as well. And then if it's minor, like, the early one where I was saying people maybe aren't sleeping so well, or, they're a little bit irritable, when you maybe take a break and you might get a few weeks off in a row, that could be enough just to reset you. But when it's been going on for a long time, often you will need to stop and take time off and just unplug, completely stop working if it's gotten to a point that's really, serious and it's affecting your physical, emotional, and mental health. And if it's gotten to the really serious point where you're overwhelmed all the time, where you're thinking about getting hit by a car, that's a serious point where you need to reassess, is this the right career for you? What kind of help do you need? Do you need to learn boundaries or how to work in a way that's protective of your own health? There are a lot of questions at that point that are going to take a longer time to answer. So it's really, if you take a few weeks off and then you go back to work and work the same way again, you're going to end up in the same situation. Yeah. And when you've overworked your brain and your emotions, it takes time to recover them. And we're in this, like, get back to work, go.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to take that time to recover, especially if you're back to work again after 2 weeks. So there sometimes is a decision to just take a full step back and take some medical leave, or to work part-time or something like that. And that's really hard for someone who's burnt out to do, because they're usually type A, gotta be the best. So it can be very challenging for people to accept. And often people feel a lot of shame because they think, I'm not able anymore, I'm not good enough now. So there's so there's physical, mental, and emotional work to do. The physical can be as simple as eating better, and even getting outside for a walk and finding calming things to do, because stress accumulates. And if you're doing something every day to just bring it down a little bit, you can improve your health dramatically. Even just 10 minutes going for a walk, where you're actually going to see trees, like in a park or something like that, that can really impact on your mental health and your emotional resilience and bring everything down. But if you let it go for weeks and weeks and weeks, it's very hard to just go on a spa weekend and then you're fine again. It accumulates a lot. So having daily practices, so it could be meditation for 10 minutes. It could be breath work for 5 minutes. It could be journaling. Journaling is great for kind of working out all of the mental.
I have a lot of journals.
Yeah. Or like for some people it's talking. So it could be having a counselor or a therapist. And in some cultures, people don't want to do that. And so it's finding what works for you so you can keep emptying out the stress jar. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think lastly, for someone who's listening, who's like tired, stuck, or like overwhelmed, what's like your one message to them?
I would say, first of all, just stop, which is the one thing they won't want to do because they've got like such a long to-do list and they need to get everything done. But just stop for a moment and just even listen to your body, because often when people are like that, they don't even realize they need to go to the bathroom, or they're hungry, or they have a headache and they need to drink water. They've got so disconnected from what's going on in their own body that they, I knew one lady who was sitting at her desk working for so long that when she stood up, she fell over because she hadn't noticed that her legs were gone numb.
Numb. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. And so
Okay.
even just listening to what's going on in your body, like, are you breathing, taking some deep breaths? And there's, I think it's Harvard have done research, I think it's Harvard, into your heart. Becoming aware of your heart can actually slow down the brain activity, in a good way. And just asking yourself, is what you're working on a top priority? Is this important? Is this going to be important in 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 5 years? Are you just in default, just doing everything on like a hamster wheel? And taking time to step away is really important when you're overwhelmed, because you'll often find that the jobs you wanted to get finished today, they're not important. And
True.
when we're overwhelmed and stuck, we don't see the distinction between what's important and what's urgent. Everything just feels important and urgent. Yeah, and what's not important, like often we're doing so much that we could delegate or ditch or just, not do. And you can't solve the problem from the same level of thinking. And Einstein was credited with pointing that one out. So stepping away is really important. Like taking even half an hour, if you're stuck and overwhelmed and you're really in a bad place, and just going for a walk, stepping away from the computer, doing something calming, you can really, even in half an hour, get a lot of perspective. And then it's realizing what's important. And if family is big value for you, but you're working until 9 o'clock at night, you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel overwhelmed. And it's really seeing what's important to you. What are your values? And are you aligning with them? Because if you're not, you will feel stuck and overwhelmed. And burnout is often a spiritual crisis as much as anything else, where someone realizes that they've been doing the wrong thing. They've been working in a job maybe that they hate, or thinking about earning money when they actually have plenty, but they've just gotten so like stuck doing yeah. So it's really just going, okay, am I doing the right thing with my life right now? And when we keep going and we're not listening to those signs, the body will tell us no. The body will stop us if we're not listening to those signs ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is some spectacular stuff you shared with us today. Thank you so much, Aifah.
You're welcome.
Aifah. I don't want to spoil.
Aifah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe share with the audience, in case someone wants to get in touch with you, you can share with them your platforms and your username on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'm sure someone from the audience would also like to connect with you.
Yes. So it's my name, Aoife Riley, on LinkedIn, and Javello Life on the other social media platforms. So hopefully the spelling of everything will be in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description as well. Thank you so much, Aoife. Guys, I hope you loved this podcast. If you did, like, subscribe, and we'll be bringing more of this your way. Thanks again, Aoife.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was really good fun.
All right, cheers.
Thank you.